my so since we have seen the definition of metabolism and its breakdown into and its breakup into catabolism and anabolism, and we say that catabolism is a degenerative pathway, whereas anabolism is a constructive pathway. In your syllabus, we are not going to talk anything about anabolism. Basically, we will concentrate only on the catabolism. So we will study a few important pathways in catabolism, starting with the glucose oxidation itself, or simply this is called glucose metabolism. So how glucose is oxidized and energy is produced. And you all know that we all consume food basically for the liberation of energy, and that energy is in terms of ATPs. We know this also. Okay, fine. So let us now bit by bit understand how this process happens, how glucose is oxidized into carbon dioxide. You know, that is what respiration is, the complete oxidation of glucose into carbon dioxide. And respiration happens in all cells. I mean, not yes, in all cells respiration happens. But what is the chemistry behind this respiration? That is what we are going to study. However, we should also note that you can also burn glucose out of the cells also. Like a chemistry experiment, you can burn glucose. You get carbon dioxide, you get a lot of heat, that is the heat energy. But a cell burning glucose is totally different than glucose is burnt outside in the laboratory. What's the major difference? Like I said, when you burn a fuel molecule like glucose or petrol, it is more called a combustion outside. And combustion is rapid oxidation. Whereas glucose inside cells doesn't behave like this. It of course undergoes oxidation, but not in a single step rapidly as an explosion type. Rather, slowly, step by step, with every successive step, the glucose oxidation level increases slowly and finally to the level of carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is more like a controlled combustion, very highly controlled combustion. And then what is the advantage? Why can't glucose be burnt like in the cells, like it is burnt outside? Definitely not, because uncontrolled oxidation always is disadvantageous to cell. Why? Because it wastes a lot of energy, because at once burst of energy is liberated, which cannot be conserved, which cannot be used to make ATPs efficiently. Second is, it increases the temperature of the cells too much, which the cells cannot sustain. Okay, therefore a combustion of glucose is not an option to cells. Controlled combustion is an option. That is what we are starting with now. How glucose is slowly oxidized step by step. And there are two important pathways, sub pathways inside glucose oxidation, identified as glycolysis and Krebs cycle. We'll take up the glycolysis first. What is glycolysis? See, when we are studying metabolism, all pathways are sequence of chemical reactions. There is no doubt about this. All pathways are sequence of chemical reactions. I hope you know the difference between set and a sequence. Okay, what is a set? Set is simply collection of something. What is a sequence? Sequence is an orderly collection, is an orderly arrangement of something. Is it not? You can, for example, you can tell when a cricket team is playing, a set of players, a set of batsmen. Maybe they have 6 batsmen, 5 batsmen in their team. You just can tell it's a set of 5 batsmen. But what is this batting order? Who comes after whom? Who is the first one, second one, third one? If you enlist like this, then that becomes a sequence. Therefore, all metabolic pathways are sequences. You have chemical reaction A followed by B, then C, then D, like that. So glycolysis is also a sequence. So whenever we say a sequence, it's easier to tell what is the first starting point of a sequence and last point of the sequence. Starting point is of course glucose, because we are starting with the glucose oxidations, glucose. The end point is pyruvate or lactate. Okay, so simply you just have to define like this: glucose. Glucose is a sequence of chemical reactions that convert glucose into, or glycolysis is a sequence of chemical reactions which convert glucose into pyruvate or lactate, along with the liberation of ATPs. This is also important, along with liberations of ATPs. And uh, whether glucose or whether glycolysis is the only pathway of glucose oxidation or it is the starting pathway of glucose oxidation depends on the nature of cells, whether they are aerobes or anaerobes. So if we can enlist some important features of glycolysis, it's like this. It's a major pathway for utilization of glucose. It takes place in all cells of the body. It takes place not just in all cells of the body. It takes place in all organisms on earth. And what is the site location of glycolysis? It is the cytoplasm. It occurs both in aerobes and anaerobes, and it's the major pathway for ATP release in cells which are anaerobic. Now, what are those anaerobic cells? Which are those anaerobic cells? They live even without the requirement for oxygen. So they are anaerobes, like lactobacillus. It's an anaerobic bacteria. Now, yes, that we all know, fine. But I just want to draw your attention to something else. Even in an aerobic organism, complicated one with tissues, organ systems level of architecture, life architecture, I mean, organization, there are cells which are anaerobic. Okay, this is very important. There are cells which are anaerobic. So, example, even in our body, the RBCs don't have mitochondria. The lens of our eyes, the cornea of the eyes don't have mitochondria. It's the mitochondria which is required for aerobic respiration. That is what we have studied in detail, because it runs ETCs, and for running ETCs, you require oxygen as a terminal electron acceptor. Okay, so mitochondria is synonymous with aerobic respiration. And those cells do not have mitochondria, have to depend on only glycolysis. Anaerobes have to depend only on glycolysis. So glycolysis is the fundamental pathway for the breakdown of glucose, oxidation of glucose. I hope you understand the meaning. Fundamental pathway, universal, present in all organisms, including aerobes and anaerobes. And it is very essential for the brain. You know, I think I have to elaborate on this point a bit. Like in our previous class, we divided the energy expenditure to different organs, right? And we told that liver is the one which consumes maximum energy in the body, followed by brain. But there is one uniqueness of the brain. Some what do you call peculiarity of the brain in terms of its fuel molecule, which it uses. It is exclusively dependent on glucose. Of course, even the other cells of other organs are also dependent on glucose. I'm not telling no, but they can sometimes when the glucose level is down in the body, when the glucose level has depleted, can make use of other fuel molecules like proteins and fats, basically fats, lipid molecules, for their energy requirement. Okay, but the brain doesn't do this. If there is depletion in the glucose level, the brain becomes ineffective in its function. So it is 100% glucose only as its fuel molecule. And I think, at least because you study this zoology subject, you know this a barrier called blood-brain barrier, which is there. Blood-brain barrier. So what is this blood-brain barrier? Can somebody answer? Blood-brain barrier. Yes. Okay. Anyways, so blood-brain barrier is, it's a filter. It's a very efficient filter that allows only very limited molecules to go into the brain tissues. Right? The capillaries of the blood is, I mean, the capillaries of the brain is having this blood-brain barrier inside them. So why is this? Because the body has to protect the brain too much from all the damages of many things. Therefore, there's a blood-brain barrier. In fact, this blood-brain barrier is the one which makes the brain protected towards many foreign particles also. Okay, so some pathogens which can infect many organs of the body cannot cross this blood-brain barrier. Okay, so it's a natural protection given to the natural special protection given to the brain. Why? Because of the importance of brain to the organism. It is vital to its survival, particularly the complex organisms, the higher level organisms like mammals, birds, reptiles. They're so much dependent on their mental activities for their survival. Therefore, brain is so much protected. Glucose crosses this blood-brain barrier. Okay, other fuel molecules do not. So only glucose crosses blood-brain barrier and enters into brain tissue. Anyways, okay, so that's all about some interesting part of our anatomy. Now we will move into the chemistry part. So what is that you have to do in this glycolysis, study in this glycolysis? You should study glycolysis, of course, the steps of glycolysis, all metabolic pathways, not just glycolysis, which we discuss in future, by their chemical structures, writing their chemical structures. Yeah, this is very important. I think you study glycolysis in other subjects also, botany, zoology, microbiology, like that. But I think writing chemical structures of those compounds is not required in those cases. But in chemistry, when we are studying metabolic pathways, chemical structures are must. Okay. Therefore, what I tell you that, and you know, these are all chemical structures of biomolecules, bigger ones, not as simple as your acetic acids, ethanols. Therefore, please practice the steps. Write and practice the steps until you reasonably master them. Because when I explain, or some teacher explains, it's easy. It seems like easily flowing. But when you have to do it on yourself, write the big structures on your own, difficulty comes in. So how to overcome this difficulty? Only by practice. Okay. So usually I tell this to my students. Organic chemistry is like more or less like your max. In max, you have to practice those steps, derivations, everything, right? Similarly, organic chemistry structures have to be written and practiced, particularly natural product chemistry and biochemistry. Fine. Okay, so let us go into the reactions of glycolysis. But before that, what is the overall reaction of the glycolysis? The glucose is converted into pyruvate. Glucose, this is the overall reaction of glycolysis. Glucose structure, ring structure of glucose, is converted into pyruvate. You see, a glucose is a 6 carbon atom compound. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whereas pyruvate is a 3 carbon atom compound. 1, 2, 3. So what are the other things involved? 2 NAD plus molecule is converted into 2 NADH molecules. Fine. And 2 ADPs are converted to 2 ATPs. Of course, the water molecules balance and all you can do. This is the first information. The overall reaction of glycolysis is this: glucose plus 2 NAD plus 2 ADP products, 2 pyruvate, 1 glucose we are starting with, not 2 glucose. 1 glucose giving rise to 2 pyruvate, because 1 glucose is 6 carbon atom, pyruvate is 3 carbon atom. So 2 into 3, the number of carbon should also balance, 6 plus 2 NADH and then 2 ATPs. This is the overall reaction of the glycolysis. Now let us see the individual reactions. Now the step 1. The step 1 is what? And can you identify the reaction? What has happened? See, when you write some biochemical reactions, many of these biochemical reactions, there is a small change in the structure of the substrate. So you see, as glucose is such a big substrate structure, even the product is still glucose. Where the change has happened, what is the change you are observing? What is the change you are observing? Okay. Is it
phosphate group is replaced by
dehydrogenation?
okay? Yeah. First, you look at the structure of your reactant. Which is your reactant?
glucose.
Glucose.
And you have the product. Locate the difference in the structure. What has happened in the product, which is not present in the reactant?
Hydroxyl group is replaced by phosphate.
Yes, hydroxyl group is replaced by phosphate. Correct.
Phosphate.
Yes. So what is this? Basically, this reaction, it is simply phosphorylation, right?
Esterification.
Is this not phosphorylation?
Yes, sir.
Yes, this is phosphorylation. So you should first identify the type of reaction always. So what is the first type of reaction in glycolysis? What is the first reaction in glycolysis? It is phosphorylation of glucose. What is your substrate? Glucose. So when glucose is phosphorylated, it gives you glucose phosphate. But then you have to pinpoint the phosphate group's position also. How many hydroxyl groups are there in glucose which can be phosphorylated? Look at the structure and answer. How many hydroxyl groups are there?
Five.
5, good. But which hydroxyl group has been phosphorylated?
Ethyl alcohol.
No, the position I'm asking. On which carbon?
Fifth carbon.
Sixth carbon, correct. So how is the nomenclature? 1, always the anomeric carbon gets first number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I should have labeled the glucose. Anyways, it was there in my previous slide. So see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So out of 5 possibilities, phosphorylation is happening only on the 6th hydroxyl group. And don't you think this is a very specific phosphorylation? Specific phosphorylation?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So such a specificity is achieved in a reaction, in biological reactions particularly, because of specifically acting enzymes. And for every reaction you write, you should always give the enzyme. I told you in my previous class that there is no reaction in a cell which is not using enzyme for catalysis. All reactions are catalyzed by enzymes. So which is the enzyme which does this? Hexokinase. The kinases are the general name for enzymes which transfer phosphate group from one substrate to other. So hexokinase is transferring from where to where? From ATP, please remember, from ATP to glucose. Okay, and ADP produced. So if ATP is the online classes have become like you sit in a, like, have to be very harsh, you sit in a market and then listen to classes. Fine. Anyways, I'm sorry for using such a harsh word, but sometimes it irritates us a lot. Lot of background discussion. You can at least not make yourself free, sit in a quiet place for some time, at least some 2 hours per day for your online class. Okay. Yes. So ATP is losing its phosphate and giving it to glucose, and it is becoming ADP. This reaction we have given as an example for something else also in our previous classes. In fact, this is an endergonic reaction. Which is endergonic reaction? Conversion of glucose to glucose 6-phosphate is endergonic. So all endergonic reactions require input of energy. Who gives energy? ATP. When ATP is converted to ADP, its energy is taken away by some other reaction. Is it not? So the glucose phosphorylation cannot happen without ATP phosphorylating it. And whenever ATP comes into the picture or phosphorylation comes into the picture, we write magnesium 2+ as its cofactor. Okay, so you please complete this reaction writing Mg2+. Glucose 6-phosphate is the product of first step of glycolysis. Okay, now if you look at the second step, we write there are two types of arrow marks we use when we write a metabolic pathways. When we write metabolic pathways, one is the forward direction irreversible arrow mark, the other is the reversible arrow mark. When are these arrow marks specifically used? For an irreversible reaction, we always write one-sided arrow mark, right? And for a reversible reactions like this. So in metabolic pathways, there are few reversible reactions as well as irreversible reactions also. Most of the reactions are reversible. Okay, but there are key, very crucial reactions which are irreversible. This is one reaction of such kind, where glucose to glucose of 6-phosphate is irreversible. There is nothing in the cell which can convert glucose 6-phosphate back to glucose. There is no enzyme, there is no reaction inbuilt for that, which does the reverse of this. So this is a one-sided irreversible reaction. But there is one significance of this reaction. Why this has to be phosphorylated? Glucose has to be phosphorylated. The answer is in its charges. Like, what about glucose? It's a neutral molecule, right? Glucose is neutral, whereas glucose 6-phosphate is a negatively charged compound. And particularly the molecules bearing phosphate group on it, which is negatively charged, two negatively charged, very polar group phosphate is, they cannot cross the plasma membrane. How does glucose enter into the cell? It is simply by diffusion. And you know, diffusion is always from the direction of higher concentration to lower concentration. So let us think that initially, only in the absorption phase, glycolysis has not started. Glucose concentration is higher in the outside environment and enters into the cell because of diffusion. And what happens after some time? Glucose concentration increases in the cell, and the diffusion's direction could be reversed now. The glucose inside the cytoplasm goes out. Should not happen. Then the cell will be losing glucose. Therefore, in order to trap the glucose permanently inside the cell, phosphorylation takes place. Because phosphorylated glucose cannot diffuse out of the cell. Neutral glucose can diffuse out of the cell. Okay, so phosphorylation is a means of capturing the glucose, whatever available glucose given to the cells, capturing the glucose inside, locking the glucose inside the cell. Phosphorylation should happen for that. So that's one reason. Second reason is, of course, we will address the second reason when we look into the fourth step of the glycolysis. Okay, fine. So since I have only 10 minutes left, please send your names in the chat box for the attendance sake. Later I will mark it. Okay, to the second step now. Yes, there is one more uniqueness. I mean, there is some noteworthy thing about the enzyme involved. There are two enzymes which can do this reaction. One is glucokinase and the other is hexokinase. What is the enzyme name I have written here? Hexokinase. What's the difference between hexokinase and glucokinase? Yeah, somebody? Because what do you mean by kinase? It's an enzyme which transfers the phosphate group between substrates. So what would be the difference between hexokinase and glucokinase? Anybody can answer this? Kinase means what? Which transfers the phosphate group. So if it is hexokinase and glucokinase, what's the difference?
Six-membered ring.
I mean, you can even guess your answers. Yeah, no problem, because I haven't taught you yet. This is an open question. Even if you don't answer, I don't mind. Yeah, tell me. Yeah, one was given
Sir, enzyme which
enzymes which do what?
perform phosphorylation on
Yes.
six-membered ring compound.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. So enzymes which perform phosphorylation of any exose. Okay. Glucose is one example of an exose. There are many more exoses, right? Which is the one more exose? Can you give an example apart from glucose? Hexose is a common name for a six-membered carbohydrate, sugar. One more exose example.
Fructose.
Benzene.
Good, yeah, fructose. Somebody told what? Benzene. Hey, please don't bring benzene into picture. Yeah, I know it also has six carbon atoms in it, but exoses are the names for carbohydrates only, not for any six carbon atom organic molecule. Hexane, benzene, or normal hexane, cyclohexane, nothing. They are not exoses, ketose, aldoses, ketoses. It is only for carbohydrate. Yes. The other answers were correct. Fructose is one more exose. Galactose is an exose. Mannose is an exose. Is it not? So hexokinase can phosphorylate any of these exoses, but glucokinase is specific to glucose. Okay. Now you can ask me a question. When is glucokinase coming into picture? And I have written hexokinase here. Glucokinase comes into picture in specific tissues which have high demand for glucose. Okay, because anyway, if somebody studies biochemistry later after your BSc, MSc biochemistry, you will learn a lot of things on enzymology. And there is something called equation, Michaelis-Menten equation, where there's a constant called Km, Michaelis constant, which is called Km. And the value of that Km is an indication of the binding efficiency of the enzyme to the substrate. Okay. In fact, hexokinase and glucokinase activity is much higher than hexokinase activity. Okay. So it phosphorylates glucose very rapidly, the glucokinase, compared to hexokinase. So those tissues which require high amount of glucose uses glucokinase for the first step, because they have to do the glycolysis rapidly, very fast. Therefore, glucokinase comes into picture then. But hexokinase, moderate speed compared to glucokinase. That's what I mean. Even glucose can be phosphorylated by hexokinase, but glucokinase cannot phosphorylate. Example, mannose. Glucokinase cannot phosphorylate galactose. It phosphorylates only glucose. Fine. So this is step one of glycolysis. So what is the significance of step one? It captures all the glucose given to the cell, phosphorylates it, and doesn't make the glucose phosphate diffuse out of the cell. Okay, so that's the significance of your first step. So every step in metabolic pathway is a treasure of information. Yeah, there is so much research which has gone into this understanding of metabolism that I mean, simply your books, internet is flooded with information. So that's it. And please remember, these are all conserved pathways. Okay, what do you mean by conserved pathways? This happens in a bacteria, in an amoeba or an elephant, or an algae or a banyan tree. It happens everywhere in, or this is called ubiquitous nature, universality. They are all conserved pathways. Okay, so I'll just stop here because I have only 3.5 minutes left. Next class, we'll continue with the glycolysis systems.